Well, you know, that's not going to happen. That's not what, I mean, Trump's
Well,
going to be there for another,
they can do it with or
well,
without us.
3.5 years or maybe ever. Um, so I can't imagine in 3.5 years this war won't have resolved itself somehow. It's going to have to do it without America's help. I hope you're not counting on that.
I'm not counting on it,
Because
certainly,
that's
and
just not where
I
Trump.
think one of the things is this could create a war in Europe, in a sense, and Europe is definitely showing signs of really coming up to the game.
You mean defending? I mean, Trump always says NATO was too reliant on America. We paid too much into it. They should be defending themselves more. That's not all wrong.
This is actually Sean Penn. You might recognize him from The Breakfast Club. In one of the clips, Bill Maher is speaking directly to Sean Penn, saying that Donald Trump was correct and that Penn is standing up for Ukraine. I'm honestly shocked that Bill Maher is finally siding with Trump on something. Let's take a look.
That's all wrong.
No,
what I'm saying is that because they're being forced into a pinch this way, because they're clearly not just defending Ukraine on a principle. They understand the ramifications of a Russian victory there and the way that would inevitably spread through Europe.
I don't think that's true. It would not inevitably spread through Europe. Russia is not strong like that. The idea that Russia is going to, I understand his desire. I mean, Putin would like to reconstitute the Soviet Union for sure.
Because they're not strong like that it happens. What Putin needs to do is this kind of an action every time he's going down politically. And that's the way he manipulates
he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough soldiers. He doesn't have enough money. He doesn't have enough materiel. I mean, yeah, I guess it could be a drone war, but drones are cheap. Drones, like it really puts the lie to the new budget we have, which of course just is the one thing that both parties could always agree on, which is shoveling more money to the Pentagon, which they call defense, but really is defense contractors, to make shit that obviously in this age of drones are already obsolete. It's just about providing jobs back home and making shit that even the Pentagon sometimes says we don't want.
No, I believe that Bill Maher is aware of the military-industrial complex, and he disagrees with it like Chanker does. I believe that when we see large, beautiful bills with deficits of $150 billion and to point for $1 trillion that are out of reach for the average American, we kind of think, well, what's going on? But you guys have a way to where if the big beautiful bill by Donald Trump does pass that you guys can make money off of it, watch all right. So right here, we have a great spot to add that big beautiful bill ad.
Has enough to be a real threat again in this way. But in the meantime, you look at what's happening in Georgia now. You look at what had been happening in Ukraine, what he aims to have happen in Ukraine, where whether or not they before the invasion, where the pressure was to have a proxy, to have a puppet in leadership. And so it's not always an army coming across. This war, Putin has already declared that this war is against the United States. He's said it on numerous occasions when he says, this is that saying Ukraine was a proxy of the U.S. And so, and the war on the U.S. has been a cyber war, but it has affected literally lives and certainly livelihoods.
Well, there's no doubt that he never lost his KGB bona fides. He's a guy who was raised in a system where it was the Soviet Union and the United States was an existential enemy. I get it. He never lost that. Now, there are people who would argue that we are the ones who made the mistake when we didn't disband NATO when the Soviet Union disbanded, because NATO was formed to confront the Soviet Union.
Or had we invited the former Soviet Union into NATO, perhaps then we would have had more responsibility to help build their institutions to be able to.
But that made no sense. NATO was an
I'm not joking. This is actually a result of Bill Maher viewing my films.
Formed to fight the Soviet Union. How can you then invite It's like the
Well,
Yankees are playing the.
no. You have other great enemies. Let's say, right? China for one, and so
So we all
building a
we
coalition.
all gang up against China.
Well,
Yeah, that could work.
yeah, and it was discussed. It was discussed at the time.
But China wasn't a power then. When the Soviet Union rolled up in '91, China wasn't some threat. I mean, it was the country they talked about as, ooh, watch out, they could be the rising power of the next century, which they turned out to be.
Well, but they were economically exploding,
They
and
were
were one of the biggest providers, along with the Russians, of weapons to the Vietnamese. We don't have to go back in time and the entire balance of it, but the bottom line was that Russia, while we were dancing, Perestroika and Gorbachev and
Yeah.
Reagan and the walls come down, they never got a chance to dance there. The breadlines were longer, and oligarchy and gangsterism took over where the communist power void left off. And so,
yeah, the middle class also did expand. Once you got rid of state-owned industry, I mean, Moscow, I've never been, but I've certainly know people who've been before and after, and they say Moscow's a very alive city with a lot of people who are doing well. I mean, you go out at night in Moscow, you can have a good time. Yeah.
Moscow was a picture city. It is still today.
What does that mean?
I mean, that's the advertisement for Russia. It's the ad. You get, listen, I went and did
like the Paradise Ghetto.
Yeah, for a movie thing, I did a little bit of training at Star City, which is about 40 kilometers outside of Moscow. And that's their NASA.
Oh.
That gives you a little inside view of the gas station with nuclear weapons that they are in so many ways. Nothing but chip paint on broken walls.
Being our age makes it easier for us to not freak out, because I feel like the kids are more freaked out. Now that may just be because that generation is just, angsty about everything.
I'm kidding you not. This is literally because Bill Maher has watched my videos.
Well, the ones who are engaged are, right? And that I can only imagine is extremely hard, particularly younger. My kids are in their 30s.
And where's their head on like where the country is? And are they despondent? Or what I'm saying is, like, we remember Nixon. No, he wasn't. He certainly didn't go where Trump went, but we thought he was like the end of the world, and it turned out he wasn't. Is that going to be the case with Trump?
Yes.
He's already been the end of hundreds of thousands of world.
Oh my God, this is why actors and actresses are not taken seriously. Donald Trump is a crazy Thanos man who has not only destroyed our planet, but also hundreds of thousands of worlds. He has also created universal genocide.
Not so, bro. I have another sip.
Yeah.
God, we need him more.
Yeah, but I mean, even bigger picture than that. Just, the fundamental essence of America being the peaceful transfer of power, which is, always the number
peaceful
one
transfer of power. And at what temperature is the globe running when he hands it over?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm certainly a person who believes as much as you do, or any person who can read scientific literature, even for the layman, that we are, doing horrible things environmentally, and it's obviously going to get us at some point. I don't know that one side has really done a lot more than the other. I mean, you can read some very depressing stats like, coal use after all these years and all this money spent on clean energy, and it's like almost the exact percentage as it was, I don't know, whatever the stat was, 1990 or something.
You're a pro-nuclear power guy.
Yes.
Me too.
I'd like to build one right here.
Yeah.
You can use my yard.
France makes money on theirs.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, I always say nuclear energy is a lot like marriage. When it goes bad, it really goes bad. Not that I have to tell you. Marriage is going bad. I'm sorry. But it is that kind of thing. Like, you just have to make sure you marry the right person, or you make the plan safe. Because when it melts down, it's so destructive. And that's what people are afraid of nuclear power for 3 reasons: 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima. Those 3 words, and those are 3 powerful words.
You don't live in a sober world, and neither does he. He walked into the room with a cigarette in one hand and a bottle of alcohol in the other. And that's not homicide in a sober world, that's get off your ass and go to work time. I have no idea what you're even talking about half the time, but I know enough to know that this isn't negligent homicide. Now, putting all that healthcare nonsense aside, let me be completely honest. With you, I've never had health insurance. Some of you are going to disagree, and that's fine. But I've been without health insurance for a long time, and I genuinely believe that people like me, small business owners who run multiple companies, provide for their employees, take care of their families, were never meant to make it in this system. It's not designed for us to win. Just think about it for a second. Health insurance, property taxes, business insurance. Have you seen the rates? What rates are you offered if you're self-employed or running a business? Let's take an example. Imagine you're in your early 20s with a successful business making, let's say, $120,000 a year. You need a car to run your business, so you lease one. Sure, it's a write-off, but you've still got to make that payment every single month. Then add property taxes, business insurance, maybe an office you're renting. And on top of that, health insurance for yourself, and if you've got staff, for them too. It's crazy, and if you're the only employee running that whole operation, even worse, after all that, how much do you really have left over? How much are you actually living on after all those deductions and payments? That's what they don't tell you. They expect you to keep grinding, keep paying, keep working, but the system was built to squeeze you dry. And nobody's talking about it honestly.
Well, they're powerful in it. First of all, we know, if we're just talking about the climate, the result at the end of all this stuff. We have to assume that we are in some denial. We absorb the information. Let's say we believe in this school of thought that's coming from the scientific community. Yes, the world's heating up. Those same scientists are saying, guys, this is urgent. We don't really want to process that. That's part of it. It's not just that they're not communicating it in ways that are successful.
I would agree with that.
And that's the same. So, for example, the normalization of these 30,000 children that have been kidnapped by the Russians. We're finding ways for that not to be what we know it is to us, right? These are just defense mechanisms. And finally, trying to be a little braver about this stuff and get a clear thought. It does seem to me that the science that I've come to trust, not claiming any kind of
Were you vaccinated?
expertise, but I pay attention, I care, and I don't think I'm alarmist. It has me extremely worried. We were talking about.
I want to reiterate that I live in Arizona. As I mentioned in previous videos, when 9/11 occurred, I had teachers tell me that they were younger and extremely worried because Arizona had a nuclear power plant and they were afraid that their entire state would blow up. However, nothing ever happened because everyone knows that 9/11 was staged for media purposes, which is why Michael Jackson and a number of other people weren't at the World Trade Center, like the JP Morgan guys or whatever weren't on the Titanic. Hey everyone, if you stuck around till the end of this video, drop a comment below. I'm really into climate change topics and want to dive deep into it again with current issues. I have strong opinions on this. Let me know if you're interested, and we'll explore it together. Thanks for watching, love you all. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. See you next time.